One of the most critical components in fantasy writing is the magic system. A magic system is a set of underlying rules that can either elevate your story to epic heights or leaving your readers scratching their heads wondering what is going on. But how do you, as a writer, build a magic system that's clear, compelling, and integral to your story? That is where Brandon Sanderson's laws of magic come in. In this video, I'm breaking down each of Brandon Sanderson's 3 laws of magic and showing you how you can use these principles to transform your world building, making the magic in your story as engaging as the characters themselves. My name is Haley from Storylab, and I'm an author, writing teacher, and editor with more than 15 years of experience. If you have ever found world building overwhelming, don't worry, you are in good company. The breakdown in this video will help you understand how to effectively build a magic system that matches your story. Throughout the video, I'll also be showing you how I apply these laws of magic to work on my own in-progress fantasy story, so stick around. Sanderson's first law of magic states, an author's ability to solve conflict with magic is directly proportional to how well the reader understands said magic. Now, what does this actually mean? In simple terms, Sanderson's saying that the clearer you make your magic system to your audience, the more effectively you can use that magic to drive your story's conflict and resolution. When readers know exactly what your magic can and cannot do, they're more invested in using that magic to solve problems, and the stakes feel higher. Let's look at that in practice. Sanderson says that most magic systems fall into 2 major types, plus a third middle ground. The first type of magic system is called a soft magic system. Sanderson uses The Lord of the Rings as an example of a soft magic system. In this type of system, magic is mysterious and vast. It creates an atmosphere of awe and wonder because we never fully understand its mechanics. But in this type of magic system, magic is rarely used by itself to solve major problems. The magic in The Lord of the Rings feels almost limitless. It's a force of nature that's as unpredictable as it is powerful. But its inner workings are largely hidden from the readers. And because of this, characters can't simply use magic as a quick fix. Frodo can't just hop on the eagles to Mordor or simply vanish the ring's burden. He must overcome his challenges through grit, strategy, and personal growth. The second type of magic system is a hard magic system. In a hard magic system, magic operates with clearly defined rules that are explained to the readers. Every ability has limits and is explained, at least to some extent. Sanderson uses the Marvel Universe as an example of a hard magic system. With Marvel, readers and viewers are in on the rules of the magic system. We know that Spider-Man's web slinging is a natural manifestation of his abilities, and Thor's lightning summoning is firmly within the realm of his godly powers. Characters in a hard magic system can only do what their powers allow. This means that if Spider-Man were to suddenly develop wings, it would break the internal logic of his abilities. Unless, of course, there's a very clear, justified reason for him developing wings shown on the page. With a hard magic system, every magical conflict and resolution is built on the foundation of these rules. Spider-Man often uses his magic to solve conflicts, but it's the reader's understanding of what's possible for Spider-Man that makes this magical solution both satisfying and believable. Sanderson also gives Harry Potter as an example of that third middle ground system. According to Sanderson, each Harry Potter book expands on the workings of the magic system a bit more. We see new spells, learn about new laws, and have new ideas about what magic can do in each progressive book. At the same time, we never quite know the boundaries of magic in Harry Potter. I like to think about this as Harry is almost always in each book learning a new spell and then using that spell to solve his problems, but Thor is pretty much stuck with the same set of powers. Now, let's see if I can apply these principles on my own world. So if you've been around for previous videos, you know that I'm working on a fantasy story about a female pirate that's set in a lush world inspired by the South China Seas. The story follows a female pirate as she's fighting for command of her fleet and racing to claim a treasure before a rival group. So if I were to write this story as a soft magic system, I could have the magic be ancient. It's this almost mythic force of wind and sky. Maybe it's tied to something like ancient deities or hidden islands that reveal powers. The pirates, and by extension the readers, are never going to really fully understand or master how this magic works. So the characters, like that female pirate, would be relying on human traits like grit, resourcefulness, and teamwork to accomplish their goals. On the other hand, if I were to write this as a hard magic system, I could give that female pirate, my main character, a specific set of controls over the maritime world. So maybe she has the power to control specific creatures, and someone on a rival crew has the ability to summon weather. And I could set up battles between these two crews where their powers are working against each other. Or I could take a middle ground where I combine both elements of soft and hard. The main character has the specific power, maybe again to control creatures, but the magic feels really limitless and she doesn't necessarily fully understand it, and neither do the readers. Moving on to Law 2. Sanderson's second law of magic is simple: limitations over powers. Simply put, Sanderson is saying that what really makes magic, and by extension your characters and story, compelling isn't what your magic can do. It's what your magic can't do. Instead of just focusing on flashy powers, the magic system's limitations, costs, and even weaknesses are what drive the conflict and deepen your narrative. Sanderson gives us the example of Superman. If you were to describe Superman, you might list his ability to fly, his super strength, or even those lasers that he fires from his eyes. But is that what really makes Superman, or more specifically Superman stories, interesting? Of course not. What truly sets Superman apart is his vulnerability, kryptonite, and his unwavering code of ethics. It's his limitations and flaws that pull us into Superman's story, forcing him into challenges that test his character and resolve. Limitations force your characters to work for their goals. Imagine a world where magic just fixes everything effortlessly. There's no tension, there's no challenge, and there's no growth. When magic has built-in restrictions, your characters must get creative. They've got to strategize, and they need to fight harder for every single victory. Limitations are not just obstacles. They're opportunities for character development. When a character's abilities are tightly bound by conditions or come with significant drawbacks, their personal struggles and growth become intertwined with the magic itself. Those challenges echo into every aspect of a character's life, making both them and the worlds around them feel richer and more authentic. Sanderson tells us to consider limitations, weaknesses, and costs when building a magic system. Limitations are the inherent boundaries of magic, what it simply cannot do. Think of it as the natural scope of a power. For example, a magic that allows flight might only allow your character to take flight when the conditions are just right. Weaknesses are vulnerabilities within the magic that others might exploit. Kryptonite is not just a random flaw, it's a pivotal element that shapes Superman's journey. Costs, on the other hand, are the price characters must pay for using their magic. Those costs might be physical, mental, or even emotional. So let's consider this when creating my magic system. First, let me look at limitations. If I take that idea that my main character can use creatures to support her in battles, maybe I will say that those creatures are actually limited to sea creatures. The character couldn't summon birds or mammals, so she's really only strong and protected by this power when she is at sea. It's convenient because she's a pirate. Next, weaknesses. To add tension to this ability, I could say that summoning sea creatures has some type of glaring vulnerability. Maybe rival gangs might be able to disperse something into the air to stop her magic from taking effect, which means that she can't rely on her magic to win at sea, because she could be stopped. These limitations wouldn't just make her struggles more intense. They'd also force the character to rely on internal qualities like grit, cunning, and strength in order to emerge victorious. Sanderson's third law of magic is to expand what you already have before you add something new. Sanderson's third law says that the most compelling magic systems, and stories in general, don't rely on an ever-growing list of flashy powers. Instead, the real magic comes from taking a core idea and exploring every twist and turn it offers. It's about deepening and connecting what you already have, rather than cluttering your world with endless new elements. Sanderson says that you can expand effectively by extrapolating, interconnecting, and streamlining. First, let's look at extrapolating. Extrapolating is about considering unforeseen consequences or opportunities that arise from a core power or theme. Let's go back to the example of Harry Potter. Early on in Harry Potter, we're introduced to a few key magical ideas: spells, potions, enchanted objects, as well as the concept of light and dark magic. As the series progresses, these simple concepts are pushed to their limits. The introduction of Horcruxes, for example, wasn't a brand new type of magic, but rather a deep dive into what the dark side of the established magical world could have. By asking questions like what happens when, you can expand the stakes without overwhelming readers with new powers. Next, interconnecting. Sanderson says interconnecting is all about how the established magical elements tie into your world's culture, history, or economy. In Marvel, characters like Thor or Doctor Strange have specific powers that aren't just standalone tricks. They're woven into the characters' identities, cultures, and even the broader universe. Thor's hammer, for example, isn't just a tool. It's a symbol tied to his heritage and the lore of Asgard, while Doctor Strange's mystic arts are deeply linked to his personal journey and the multiverse's intricate balance. This interconnection makes every use of magic feel intentional and thematically resonant. And finally, streamlining. Streamlining is about how a single magical concept serves multiple narrative purposes, which can deepen character arcs and world building simultaneously. Look at The Lord of the Rings. Tolkien does not bombard us with a myriad of separate magical effects. Instead, he focuses on a number of key potent elements, most notably the One Ring. By streamlining magical concepts, Tolkien creates a concentrated force that influences the entire narrative and world, reinforcing the story's theme and maintaining a sense of unity throughout the epic. So, how will I apply this to my own writing? Let me return to the concept of my main character, who we said has the ability to summon sea creatures. First up, extrapolating. Maybe I'll say that the protagonist's unique power to command sea creatures isn't just a random cool power, but is actually tied to an ancient sea deity that watches over her. And this divine bond between the sea deity and my main character can create both challenges and obstacles. For instance, the deity might influence the tides or weather, or even get into battles with other deities, forcing the main character to think creatively and adapt to solving new problems. Next, interconnecting. So maybe I'll say that magic in this world is not entirely random. Instead, it's rooted in a character's heritage. So maybe for my main character, both her powers and the powers wielded by her rivals are actually manifestations of their ancient ancestral legacies. That way, I can also tie in those ancient deities I talked about with extrapolating. The connection between the deities and the pirates means that the magic isn't just a tool for battle within the pirates themselves, it's a living, breathing part of their identity, driving both conflict and then also unity in unexpected ways. And then last but not least, streamlining. Instead of allowing every group to develop an endless array of magical abilities, I'm going to set a deliberate limit. Each faction can only access a set number of powers. This restriction will help keep my magic from becoming too overwhelming, but it's also going to force each group to use their limited abilities in strategic and innovative ways. So looking back at these 3 laws, I've realized how much clarity and focus they can bring to the often overwhelming task of world building and specifically crafting magic systems. Sanderson's laws have given me some solid guidelines to think about, whether it's making sure my readers understand the magic, emphasizing limitations over flashy powers, or even deepening my world by expanding on what I already have rather than constantly adding new elements. World building is often really daunting for me. I typically much prefer to think about characters and plot, but applying these principles has definitely sparked some fresh ideas and renewed my passion for this story. What about you? What do you think about Sanderson's magic laws? Do you have any tips or experiences with building magic systems in your own stories? Make sure you let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, be sure to like and subscribe for more insights from StoryLab. And make sure you do not miss my video on George R.R. Martin's villain formula for even more storytelling secrets. Thanks for watching.